The VC Project.
Talk about that fun. Talk about those fun experiences, those fun stories, funny stories. Yeah.
Can we talk about Marcus getting shot?
No, that'll be saved for another episode, and we're already live, so there we go. That's a story for another episode. We'll have to wait until we get Marcus on the podcast, and we can talk about that one. Welcome everybody. Welcome back. Another week. We are going to talk about some Christmas gift ideas, like we promised, coming up here at the end of the show. But I wanted to welcome everyone again. I'm Jeremy Caldera, the wonderful Pat Venditte, and you got to say hello, Pat.
Good afternoon. It's great to be back. Episode number 2.
And, of course, we've got the one and only Director of Operations for Pearl Technology, Mr. Joe Bohna.
Thank you.
I found the effects button.
That's
like
awesome.
that. So, yeah, we're going to talk today a little bit about operations and what it takes to do what we do, right? One of the things we talked about last week with Pat is, we touched on a lot of subjects, but a lot of it had to do with, the team is what makes us successful. Operations team in general, process, procedures, what makes what we do in a company like ours successful from the standpoint of an integrator or the standpoint of even the client, right? So I don't know, start off, talk to us a little bit about your role, what you do at Pearl, and maybe, how you feel about the team, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel great about the team. Probably less so when I started with Pearl, but I like the group that we've got together now and how we're building and growing. So, but as far as like what I do and how I help the company grow is kind of I almost have my hands in everything, right? A little bit sales, a little bit engineering, and then managing the team, and also being responsible for making sure clients are happy. So a little bit service. And all encompassing, going out and installing and being a tech when I'm needed, being a programmer when needed, whatever it takes.
Well, we're not a large organization, right? And I think the majority of companies like us out there in the United States are a similar size to Pearl, right? They're not the huge 200 million, 500 million, $1 billion AV companies that we see out there, right? And so I think that when you're in an operation like ours, everyone needs to wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that's hard to get people to understand that and what that takes. But usually that's a key thing for what we do, right? I mean, there's a lot of times that I wish you were in the office, but I know that you're in the field, right? And a lot of it has to do with, I think that we're always trying to, we talked a little bit last week about retaining and attracting top talent, right? And I think a lot of that comes to the training that we put into place, right? I think that's critical for most operations. And a lot of the times when you're in the field, I think that's what you're doing, right? It's training the new guys.
Right. Yeah, 100%. It's not just training in that. It's, the culture that we bring to. I feel like our guys all get along great. We joke around, we horse around a lot in the office, and we all feel like we kind of have each other's backs and that sort of thing. So
I'm sorry, keep going.
Just to say, it's not like not like a traditional large company 9 to 5 type of job where your inner circle a little bit, but outside of that, you really don't know everybody. At Pearl, like we connect with everybody. So
You mentioned when you first started, you weren't as happy with the team as you are now. Talk a little bit about what that change has been like and what it's taken to institute those changes.
Yeah, so a lot of that actually just came down to providing consistency for the team and some training and development. So sure, we had a couple guys come on that added a lot of value. We made some really great hires over the last year that made me like the team a lot better than when I started, just filling some of those gaps. But a lot of it's just development, getting everybody on the same page, making sure that we all, understand like it's next man up. If somebody's out sick or if, somebody can't make a specific task that's assigned to them, how do we fill that gap and make sure that we keep the train rolling?
I feel a little personally offended here because when Joe started, I was helping with installs. That's how short-staffed we were. So I'm going to take a little offense to that.
We were definitely very short-staffed. So, but I think these kind of things apply for, if you look at it from an operations perspective, it's not just what it is we do, right? So think about your previous role. And for those who don't know, talk a little bit about where we hired you from, what your previous, I mean, you've got a long history. Tell us a little bit about your entire history
Sure.
and a little bit more specifically about what you did last before coming to Pearl, because I think, the things that you learned and even being involved with a lot of that stuff, you brought as a strength to our team, I think. So I think that'll help.
And to your point, Pat, the idea that your sales guy is out hanging, banging TVs and installing is a scary thought. It's a really scary thought. But to your credit, you catch on pretty quick. I thought you did a good job with it. So, so my history started I've been doing it 20 years. It's kind of crazy because I don't even feel that old, but I've been doing it 20 years.
We have 65 years of AV experience at the table, of which I have less
like
than
two
two.
of them.
I don't know that you're good at math. Just going to put that out there.
25 and 20? That's 65.
We need to check his sales.
It's 45.
We need to check the sales number proposal, the numbers on
We're
his
gonna
proposals, I think, going
that's why
forward.
we're gonna utilize this great
Is that vodka
editing.
or water? So my history started actually when I was 15 in landscaping. Just started my own landscaping company. Bought a mower, weed eater, shovels, all that type of stuff. You need to do that. Just started out hustling, trying to make money as a kid. And one of the people that I was tending to their yard happened to be an AV. And so one day I was taking care of his lawn. He comes out and says, "Hey, we've got a concert coming up this weekend. How would you like to come wrap cables, help unload, load truck, do that kind of stuff?" I was like, "Sure, I'll make some extra money. Why not?" So I went and did that, and actually turned out I really enjoyed it. So I decided not to do landscaping
What's
anymore.
not to enjoy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, at that company, there's a lot not to enjoy. It wasn't until after I left that company years later that I learned how much of a ragtag type of organization it was. But
I think that's the industry in some regards too, at least up until recent years, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think back 15, 10, 15, even 20 years ago, and it's like, what were we doing? Like, and it wasn't just us; it was everybody that I knew in the industry, right?
Mhm.
So it's crazy. But
Well, I think some of that, you look back to the origins of audiovisual integration. It came from audiovisual live production, right? It came from folks, rental house type of stuff, people engineering that type of stuff.
and that is a group of well-groomed individuals who wear suit and ties.
Exactly. And then that just migrated to, hey, I would like to have this installed so that I can do this, 24/7, what have you. And so you get those type of people who just like to go out and rock and roll and party or whatever it may be, throw them into the corporate mix. And yeah, it took them a little while to evolve.
I've always found it interesting that everywhere you go, there's AV, nationwide, worldwide. However, that doesn't seem that there's a whole lot of secondary education that supports AV. It's not like kids are leaving high school saying, "Oh, I'm going to go major in audiovisual integration or design." Talk a little bit about how you bridge that gap when you're looking to find talent, realizing that you're probably not going to find someone with an audiovisual background right away.
Yeah, it's tough, and some of it's market dependent too. If you're down where there's more awareness and more opportunity, like say Orlando, or
That's a good
or
point.
LA or some market like that where there's a huge need for it and a huge draw for that type of work, it's a little easier to find. But really, it's just educating folks. Most people, when they think of AV, a lot of people I hire, they say, "Man, when you told me we were doing AV and you hired me, the first thing that came to my mind was like I was going to be putting up speakers in a bar."
Well, my mom still thinks I install car stereos. So.
Yeah, it's like they have no idea. They're like, "Oh, I thought we were just going to be like putting up DJ stuff, sound and lighting stuff." And that's kind of where my origins are from. That's how I got my start doing AV. But so there are programs out there now that are trying to grow and build. Obviously, like this, there's a lot of podcasts out there putting awareness out.
Well, and like I was talking about last week too, Columbia College in Chicago is where I went. There's other places like Full Sail, right?
Mhm.
Where I'm fortunate enough to have specialized in AV or acoustics for that matter, right?
Yep.
Joe just kind of fell into it, just kind of like you did, right? And I think that's the story for most people in the industry, right? I know, we were just getting a little bit more to your background, but you coming from Bradley University, right, as their kind of AV director or whatever your official title was there, right? You were dealing with a lot of students that were interested in AV, but Bradley didn't even offer an AV program, if you will.
Yeah, so Bradley had we had a recording studio program. They have TV arts. They have a broadcast. They do have some of that, but what you'll find a lot of places, nothing specific to AV integration.
Right.
It's skills that you can use and apply, but not specifically. And so, yeah, we did job fairs there. A lot of it was just recruitment through people that we already had working with us. And that's how we kind of got the word out about AV on campus. And then hiring students, it was a similar thing where they're coming into it knowing nothing at all about AV.
Well, the point I was trying to get at before, and why I brought it up, right? This is not a problem common to AV integration. This is a problem common to everybody, because even the hires that we're making nowadays are references from other employees or people that we know, or a lot of that. It's very rare that it's someone that's like, hey, this looks kind of cool, I want to get into this, right? That's still there, but a lot of what we're doing, and when we do hiring, us, Bradley, whoever, that's the connection. That's how it was done. Right?
Yeah, recruitment, 100%.
You have an interesting background where you went from being a customer of Pearls and obviously other integrators in the area, and then becoming a member of that team. What are the advancements you've seen in the last 5 years or so that you've really been impressed with? And what's maybe next in line as far as integration goes, whether it be in higher education, in the corporate world, that you think is going to take people by surprise?
Well, I think what's coming is the gap is getting bridged more and more between consumer electronics and integration electronics. I think that more and more consumer offered products are going to get closer and closer to feature sets that you would typically see on an integrated solution.
I've always said that consumer market drives the commercial market, right? Because what people are going to see and touch and play with every day in their lives and the weekends and at home when they go home from work is the stuff that they're going to want to see when they go into the office, right? I mean, integration and AV in general, even 15 years ago, was drastically different, right? In the fact that you would, with the creation of all the streaming services and the convenience. I mean, think about how stupid easy it is for you to take out your phone, be playing on something in YouTube, and with one button have it up on your 85-inch TV at your house in a full 5.1 surround sound, right? And the convenience of that kind of content sharing and that creation is what's driving that convenience. Well, hey, I can do this in my house. Why can I not do this at work when I come in, right? And things have been very stringent in the commercial market. And I mean, there's IT security and other stuff like that we got to worry about, right? But I mean, it's slower to come into commercial, but I mean, that consumer market is what's driving it.
And a lot of that has to do with the customization component of it. When you look at a consumer product like an iWidget or something like that, it's very much them pushing that user experience to you. What we do in the audiovisual integration field is we let them dictate the end experience that they want. We try to deliver on that.
And I think that's critical too, right? It's delivering on an experience that the client wants, not just trying to meet a list of, necessarily needs of equipment, right? It's two totally different things and two totally different ways of designing and installing and understanding that you have to have, from the design engineer to the salesperson to the project manager down to the technicians, right?
Yeah. So. But getting back into, past experience and tying it all together, even back from my early days, starting in the AV rental house world of live concert sound and, different types of corporate production, things like that, portable stuff. A lot of what I draw from that is like the ability to, think quick on your feet, the ability to make it work, hit a deadline, hit a mark, no matter what. Because when you've got I used to work with Barack Obama, George Bush, some presidential figures. When you've got a show and you've got a problem and those folks are coming online and your backup's backup is a problem, there's no excuse. It's yes, sir, no excuse, sir. You get it done. So that type of past experience of being in those high stakes, high pressure environments where the curtain's coming up whether you're ready or not, and you better be ready. Those type of experiences, I think, helped me a lot in the position that I'm in now, being able to deliver and being able to think quick on my feet, being able to troubleshoot those type of things.
Well, that translates to what we do, because I mean, it's not as intensive because setup happened the same day that the event's happening, where the teardown is happening, right? For us, it's, think about a corporate client whose CEO is moving into their boardroom in 2 days, right? So you have to just hit this deadline. And like anything, construction gets delayed and gets delayed. Here's the end date. here's construction in our little opening. It squeezes, right? Our time doesn't change, but our window changes, right? And so there's a lot of that drastic franticness that can happen, come before, day one, right? So.
Yeah, one of the differences I see is like when you're looking at the live production, at least my experience, maybe other people have had different experiences. My experience has been when you're looking at the live production aspect of things, it's a lot more, what can we partner? How can we team up to get this done? On the integration side, doing like projects like you mentioned, corporate buildings and things like that, it's a lot more finger pointing and how can I ship land. So that was a bit of adjustment getting into that environment. And I'm not saying that happens all the time. There's a lot of great different trades and things we work with out there. We have fabulous relationship. Everything works smoothly. But just in general, I do see that more in integration than I did with live production.
Give us a go-to White House story here. You're working with presidents here. I mean, come on,
So-
there's got to be something you got for us here.
Not exactly. So, okay, Barack Obama, I worked with him while he was an Illinois state senator before he was a president.
Still a president. Doesn't matter.
So, and then I did an event where the Bushes came to town. So, just one time.
Is your anxiety through the roof when that's happening?
Yes and no. At that point in my career, when the Bushes came, I'd been doing it long enough and worked with a lot of big name folks out there that it was just kind of another day type of feeling. But yeah, I mean, obviously you're a little nervous with like security being there and like all that type of stuff.
And old President Bush was there as well, or just
Bush Jr.
Okay.
not Senior.
all right. Bush
W.
has some incredible socks. So anytime I meet anyone that has had interaction with him, I always ask if they've seen the socks. But we'll have to wait for another guest on that one.
Is that Bush Senior?
Yeah, Bush Senior, great sock game.
Yeah. But some of the you mentioned college experience from the client side, right? So I've had experience on the rental house side, the integration side, and on the client side, worked for Bradley for several years as their head of AV. And
He was our client.
Yeah.
And he was a real pain to deal with. I'm just kidding. He wasn't that bad.
yeah, no, that's probably a fair comment. But so on the client side of things, it was an interesting transition from the rental house side of things, just to see, really get an understanding of like where a lot of those folks are coming from. Like you talk about sticker shock, right? They're used to that canned solution that you get out of the box, that iOS, widget that costs maybe $1,000. But when you're driving a custom solution where you're dictating the end user experience and then the integrators are pulling all these technologies to make that happen for you, that was a big surprise to a lot of those folks. And then having those conversations and kind of opening them up to, what this looks like was a pretty tough challenge.
Were there any instances in your time at Bradley where maybe a game was going on campus where something failed over? Because I go to a ton of college basketball games, both women's, men's, and I've never once been at an event where the scoreboard or the video or the sound has been down for more than like 10 seconds. You might have like an issue here and there. And to me, that's incredible that all these events I've ever been to, the audio visual somehow goes off without a hitch for the entire game. Do you have anything where that didn't happen?
Yeah, well, so I've definitely had a lot of stressful situations where, something fails close to the time of an event and we're like down to the wire trying to get it fixed and resolved. But usually there's so many backups in place that as long as you find out, with plenty of time ahead, you can pretty much overcome any of those.
I want to be completely transparent too. I didn't give this a second thought until I was in the industry. You just go to the game and all of it works. You're like, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go in there and see these rack rooms with just a room this size, just full of gear running that all in, to realize that all of this needs to function. And there's about 50 people on the back end with their butts on the line making this work.
Yeah.
It gives you a newfound respect for people like you and that make this happen.
I'm amazed that you don't see more bloopers than you do in live broadcast. There's so many, moving parts.
There's some good ones out there, though, man. You can YouTube some of those, and they're fantastic.
You can find them, but it's not as common as you would think, given the environment.
Can you imagine the people having to beep out Marv Albert, how quick they got to be ready to go on the trigger?
Yeah, like the people that run replay. That's a tough gig. I mean, the live sound, live broadcast world, you don't really have any recourse if something happens in the moment. You just have to try to get it resolved as quickly as possible and as seamlessly as possible.
Well, I think that all valid points. I think that you have a very interesting history, right? And it's funny how I see a lot of the leaders in any organization, right? And I think that that's how you progress is with just experience. And it's not experience in necessarily the role you're currently in. It's a breadth of experience from across the board that puts you in the position that you're in. That makes everybody so great. I see that as a very common thing, right? Like, even Pat, he's new to AV sales, right? And that's a common thing. New salespeople that don't know a lot of AV. I used to see it a lot with like CTS trainings and things like that, right? People who are new to the industry and just trying to learn. But, his background and work ethic and all the stuff that goes with that is what, contributes to the success of, what he's doing today. So.
Yeah, 100%.
Just a thought. So
just got to work on my basic math skills now.
Yes, that's the key, is the basic math skills, because 20 plus 20 is 65.
I would have bet any amount of money that in that moment I was correct.
And now you know what I deal with every day in my office.
Oh, I hear it.
You know why we're yelling at
Only
each
one
other?
office away.
That's what it is, right? Yeah, when you're in the office.
2 plus 2 equals 4.
There you go.
Yeah, see, Joe's never in the office. I would say he's on job sites, but I'm pretty sure at least during June, July, and August, half that time's on the golf course. Just throwing that out.
We can dream.
Yeah, I've heard some golf clubs in the background at about 2:00 on a Tuesday.
It's December, and there's golf clubs are still in your office, ready to go.
I did notice that today. It's quite the look. It's nice office decorating.
Well, until a week ago, I thought I was going down to Texas. I was going to fly him down and, find an opportunity to play while I was down there.
There you go.
I guess it's still warm down there. We'd have to ask Luke. I don't really pay attention to the weather in Texas, but middle of December, that's about right. We were in Arizona last year, right? It was November, December. It was a little chillier down there.
We had some nights that were 30s, 40s.
But it got 65, 70 during the day, so you can golf in that weather. I don't know.
I don't mean to switch courses too much here, and Jeremy's going to get a little upset with me for bringing this up, but we're taking a podcast this afternoon with a living legend. Jeremy Caldera was recently announced as number 35.
Wait, hold on. There's a button here for that.
It's got to be louder than that. Living legends, come on.
Maybe there's another one that's like a wah wah.
I was going to say, do you have the one that goes?
Nope. I have no idea. I didn't program these buttons. They're just there, right?
Quite the honor to give so much to an industry for so long, and you've been recognized before with the Avixa Hall of Fame and numerous other things. But talk a little bit about what this means to you and what you see with it going forward.
Well, it was an honor to even be considered. I didn't know that it was going to get released. I just got a link one morning last week that just said, "Hey,
spam?"
I think
phishing attack.
Everything is spam and a phishing attack, thanks to our company, right? But yeah, no, I got the email on that, and I had interviewed for it, and they'd asked me a bunch of questions and said they were considering me. So I mean, I was honored by it. I thought we were going to get away with not mentioning it, even though we were told we should.
Gotta talk about it. It's an awesome honor.
Yeah, it's an honor, and I am very humbled by it. It's a great group. I've been fortunate enough to get some great accolades over the years, and it's come at a toll. Right, a lot goes into doing everything that we do throughout the industry and everything I do throughout the industry. So it's great. I very much appreciate it. It was a great write up and article. So I thank Dan from Commercial Integrator Magazine, and that's great. So
I've had a greater appreciation, if you will, for having somebody in the industry that's so well respected. If you go to a national conference,
that's arguable depending on who you're talking to.
Liked? I didn't say. I said respect.
All right.
There's a difference between the two, but it's nice to be able to go, rub elbows with people in our industry, and they know who I work for and who I work with.
We do get to hang out with some cool people when we go to industry events.
It goes a long way, and it makes it fun, and it allows us to branch out and do greater things. And Joe, that's where your team comes into play too, because when we get these bigger opportunities, doing those jobs well, we hit on that last week, is everything. Once the sale's made, I'm done. It goes into operations, and leveraging you and your team in addition to Jeremy, it's an asset to me, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, and I will say, some of the contacts that I've been able to make over the years have worked out well for the company as a whole. A lot of partnerships we've been able to foster with doing jobs across the country, doing things like this podcast. If it wasn't for some of the people that I knew, these awesome microphones from Shure would have not shown up on my desk, right?
Fantastic. And the headsets. Here we go.
Thank you to those guys, right? So, I mean, it's great to have, those resources and connections kind of at our fingertips, right? And it's good from an educational standpoint too, because there's a lot of times where I could be stumped on a design or something and like, man, I wonder what the other guys are doing for this. And I could send out a group chat to like 10 people and get within 5 minutes, a response on, hey, this is how you do that. Right. And typically they have not let me down yet. Right. So it's great to have that kind of network to rely on. The AV industry is a small industry. It really is. And I think we're very fortunate and very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how small it really is. I mean, you pretty much know all the big players being in the industry just a few years.
Well, enough about me. Let's talk about some Christmas ideas, huh?
Here we go.
All right. So both Pat and I were somewhat lazy in looking this kind of stuff up, but I feel like we're into the current technology and we know about some cool new stuff that's happening, right? I even sent a link out that had some stuff, but we can look at that later, Pat. What do you got? What are you going to get your kids this year for Christmas?
Mine deviates a little bit from the whole point of this podcast. My kids don't care about studio quality, microphones and headsets and whatnot. But there's a tracing device it's a machine about this big that shoots down the image rather than having a coloring book. It shoots down a 3D image, design for the person to trace. And there's no lines on the paper. So this kid's going to be able to, my son's going to be able to go over and trace this dinosaur without any lines on the paper, all from this little device. So that's a go-to for me. And then also there's these karaoke mics that connect to your iPhone.
Oh, no.
So, 100%. They go right on top. The karaoke's right in front of you. Comes out through the speaker on the side. Those will also be purchased for the Venditte household this year.
I got my daughter one of those one year, and she loved it.
Oh, how could you not?
Yeah. You're going to hate it because they will not stop using it, but she absolutely loves it.
Have you seen these newer drones that are out now? I mean, we're talking $100, right? And it could be like a little aircraft jet, or it can be like a legit drone. And it's a good size, too. And those things are 4K camera resolution, straight to your phone. You can fly them all over. Those are pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I'm not promising that my kid's getting one of those, but I might get one of those for myself.
The MetaQuest 3 just came out.
I saw an ad for that last night. It looked so sweet. There was a remote controlled car. Rather than using your fingers, you're using your hand to drive the car, to accelerate by moving forward, side to side, turns. So you think about it almost like an Iron Man type situation to where you're controlling that vehicle.
You know what's crazy about that, Pat? I feel like some of these technologies for kids to play with, like that tool or VR, is almost setting the stage for like what's going to be out there, in the future.
I've tried to think about a way to use VR headsets from a sales perspective, right? How do you virtually build a conference room that's new construction and walk your client through what they're going to get and what the experience is going to be? It doesn't have to be just a conference room. It could be anything, performing arts center, whatever, right? And you can actually build that in some kind of rendering program and do that. And I think a lot of what we're able to do these days is going to allow us to do that kind of stuff. It's one thing I've definitely been looking into doing, which is cool.
There's actually in the construction industry, they're already applying augmented reality. They have folks who wear these glasses,
like the Google Glass that came out back in the day. Yeah,
that overlay. Like say you're a steam fitter. Okay, you're doing pipe work. They have these glasses you put on, and it overlays in the actual space of the room where the pipes are going and how they connect and everything like that. And then as a builder, you're just matching up your pipe work or what you're doing to the actual diagram that's right in front of you in augmented reality. And then, that's a game, right?
We've had customers request that ability with almost like projection mapping, to where rather than have an instruction guide, they're doing just that, assembling parts on a manufacturing floor. They're putting those prints down. So the same thing, you're putting together a puzzle based on that, what you're seeing right in front of you. And that's a heck of a way to do your job compared to having to read through an instruction manual. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's some other cool stuff that doesn't have to necessarily be for kids, right? So you and I were talking earlier about the security camera that screws into the light socket, right? That's how it gets power, so you can put it anywhere, like out underneath an
It's incredible.
overhang for your house or something like that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, and you need a one and done for like a little area. You're not going to set up a whole network of high end cameras. It's a perfect little fix. It's awesome.
I'm surprised how good the quality of. Sorry, I was distracted. I'm checking my smoker at home. It's killing me. It's taking forever. It's a crazy the quality of video cameras and stuff that we get nowadays at the cost. You know, I mean, it's really a reduced cost for a lot of this.
Your phone.
Right, exactly. I mean, no one carries a camera anymore. Well, I take that back. I just went on a trip with my parents to Italy, and we went with their church group. And by 2 generations, my brother and I were the youngest person in this group. So there were a lot of actual physical cameras in that crowd, but I think that was the exception to the rule.
Were there any of the handheld recording cameras?
No, thankfully, no. But I will say we were the only ones that were using our iPhones primarily, right, as the primary method of recording video and photographs and stuff. And I guarantee you, they're going to turn out way better than all those cameras will, right? So, they. But like you said, right here in our pocket. But the fact that I can pull up 4K video resolution from my door and see who's delivering packages when anybody drops something off or whatever is stupid. You can't go anywhere nowadays without basically 100% being on video.
Being that we're in a cybersecurity, firm that does that, are you a bit concerned like Big Brother is watching you through all those different devices and mediums?
Okay, so no.
Yes, I am. I assume everything I do and say is out.
On record.
Right, but I mean, we know it when we talk in our phones and you get the ads that pop up just based on the conversations that it's listening, to you have, right? I mean, we all know that's happening, but there's nothing going on that if they want to look through my doorbell camera, I mean, I'm not going to let them, but if they're going to hack into it and hear what I got to say or what's going on in my house, they're going to be pretty bored and move on to the next guy, right? So, I mean, for the most part, right? I can't say that about Pat, but
I would venture to say they're probably not going to get into a whole lot, and unless they get down in the golf simulator, then they'll hear some swear words.
Well,
there.
What's interesting is there was a court case, and I don't ever remember what happened to it. That was a year or two ago, where there was like a murder that had happened, and the government tried to subpoena the records, and I might be butchering this, of Amazon to get the recordings from Alexa in the house, right? And they said it's a privacy concern. But first they said, we don't store those recordings. We don't store those recordings because that thing's listening to you 24/7, right? Because it's always got to be ready to listen when it says, hey, Alexa, or whatever, right? It's got to be listening for you. And so they were trying to basically say, we want these recordings. We know you're recording. And they said, no, we're not. No, we're not. Well, then they finally admitted, yes, we are, but we're only having like AI diagnose the stuff to be better at responding or whatever excuse they made, right? But I don't know what ultimately happened because that went to court to see if they were, if it was actually a privacy thing where they could turn over those recordings or not with or without subpoena. So I don't know where that ended up, but it's interesting talking about that kind of stuff, right? And then is Big Brother watching? I don't know, and if he is. The
more I think about that, you'd probably hear some pretty bad stuff that I say about you from 6 to 7 p.m. at night.
I'm sure. The thing about this too, there was a program in place where the power company would give you a smart thermostat. Great Christmas idea. That's what we're talking about, right? Christmas ideas, smart thermostat. My Nest is awesome. But if you read the fine print, the power company will give this device to you, but then they have the right to turn you down or off during peak times.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Versus going to buy it yourself. Now, some people may not want to spend the $200 or whatever it costs for one of these things now. But, if you want it for free, it's the same thing. Locally in Peoria, in some of our local towns, they were giving away the Nest. Is it Nest makes the doorbell things, right? The video doorbells, right?
I believe
Ring?
so.
Ring. It's Ring.
Yeah.
They were giving away the Ring doorbell things. The police departments were giving it. You sign up for it. But guess what? They have the right to log into it if they need to pull any footage for what's happening out in front of your house or your street or something like that. And a lot of people were signing up for that kind of thing, right? It's people don't read the terms and agreements on a lot of this stuff. And man, if you want some good reading, not just to fall asleep at night, nothing is free, right? Nothing is free. And so
I was just office talking with some gentlemen about that not that long ago. I like email, You're the product for Gmail and Yahoo and all those email services. They're just data collecting everything.
Yeah, it's even crazy. Like some of those video watching apps. I won't name any in particular, but we all know who they are, right? That could be a foreign operative government who, if you read the terms and agreement, have the right to read your emails and log your keystrokes and all this other crazy stuff that's out there. So it's nuts. So I mean, read your terms of agreement, people, as boring as it is, right? It's good to fall asleep at night, and then you'll still maybe retain a little bit of it. So, all right, well, I don't want to go too much longer. Joe, anything else you want to add? I know we talked a little bit about operations and what it takes to put this stuff on, but
Yeah. No, nothing
Yeah.
else I can think of.
thank you for coming on the show. I will say, as anyone who's watching this, I know you can listen to this podcast as well. We're on Spotify and maybe some other places, but if you're watching, you'll notice that our digs are a little bit upgraded today. We moved from Pat's living room.
Moved out of my basement.
Yeah, we moved out of Pat's place, and we
I
have
would
now.
consider that a downgrade because he's got a golf simulator right behind his house.
That is true. When we are done podcasting, we can go to the golf simulator. But the quality of the product of the podcast is turning out a little bit better because we have access to somewhat of a studio that's built now over at the Rural Insurance Group. So we lucked out there. So thank you to those guys for letting us use the studio. And we will probably be recording here from now on. There are some times we will be doing live broadcasts out with some clients and things like that. We were just lining that up today. But yes, new digs. So every week we'll improve a little bit better. We hope that everyone enjoys the show. We'll try and have some other guests on coming up soon as well. Pat, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, it was a great first guest. Nice work, Joe.
Thank you.
Wait,
Appreciate
hold on. I got a thing for that.
Oh no.
Hit it. There we go.
All right.
Better and better.
We got it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Cool.
See you guys.